to the Anomaly Podcast. The Anomaly Podcast aims to highlight various careers, mostly in STEM, of African Americans and people of color who are navigating their environments every day, and also to make sure that we are bringing the human side to our work. And so today it brings me great pleasure to share with you the story of Dr. Leslie Leonard. Dr. Leonard is my best friend, and I will probably refer to her as Les throughout the interview. But she is a truly accomplished computer scientist. And so she will share her background as well as talk about how she has navigated her career and also being a mom and a wife. And we will just have a pretty fun conversation. So welcome.
Thank you. I'm really happy to be here.
I'm so happy to have you. So can you tell us a little bit about yourself? Just start with your background.
Okay. Okay, so I am from Mississippi, rural Hinds County. I often tell people that I'm from Edwards, Mississippi, but some of my friends would say, no, you're from Utica. It was so strange because we had an Edwards address, Utica phone number. I went to school in Utica, but I went to high school there at Hinds AHS.
Okay.
From 96 to 2000. And I often tell the story about how I got into computer science. My father worked for DOD, an organization there in Vicksburg, Mississippi. And so around 96, 97, I came home one day and there was a job announcement on the table. My dad asked me later that evening, hey, did you look at the job announcement? Absolutely not. I'm 15, 16 years old. So I finally went and looked at it. The thing that really stood out to me is that it was computer science and the salary.
Mm-hmm.
At that time, you're motivated by money, right?
Of course.
But at the time, you're not thinking about a career.
Mm-hmm.
And so I often tell people that around 96, 97, the seed was planted,
Okay.
right? Computer science was planted. And so what I wanted to do was figure out a way that I could leverage computer science, but still be engaged with my community, right?
Okay.
And so I was like, how could I do this? And so my dad, he showed me the job announcement. He was like, hey, you can do this.
Mm-hmm.
But I thought I wanted to be a broadcast journalist, Dad. He was like, well, you probably could do both. I was like, I don't know. But in high school, I didn't have a computer.
Okay.
I didn't have a computer. My dad saw that he worked for DOD like starting in the 70s, and he saw the evolution of computers where at one point no one had a computer on their desk. And then around the 80s, everyone had a computer, right? And so we had a computer at school. It was in the library. I think myself and one of my best friends were the only ones that used it.
Mm-hmm.
I was really fascinated with instant messaging. How can you talk to someone over the computer, through instant message? And of course, text messaging wasn't out then on the phones, right? So how can you talk to someone that's in Jersey or Texas and see the communication over the computer? And so that was like my real fascination with computers at that point.
Mm-hmm.
And so in 2000, I got a scholarship to Jackson State University. I graduated valedictorian of my high school class in 2000. Majored in computer science, of course. That seed started to grow. I did one internship my junior year, between my junior and senior year, for a DOD agency in the DC area. So that's when I really fell in love with DC. And then my first job was there in DC. So, I made it there around May, and you were there in November.
Yes.
November time frame. And so starting off with that career, at the time I was considered a software engineer.
Okay.
Right. And so I was there for 1 year. And then my dad, again, sent me a job announcement.
And you left me. Mm-hmm.
I left you, unfortunately. He sent me a job announcement for a computer scientist.
Yes.
And so that is when I applied for it, and I got it, and I came back home. And so I've been home since 2005, back and forth. And so working at the organization that I work for now, I've done so many things. My official title is computer sciences.
Okay.
But from there, I've done stuff in configuration management as it relates to software engineering. I've worked for our strategic integration office. I've done a few temporary assignments there. I'm currently working in high performance computing. So I've taken some courses in high performance computing, but now I'm really trying to get more people to work in this field. So in workforce development. I've worked in cybersecurity. Like I have a PhD in computer science focused on cybersecurity. And the whole PhD stint came from my organization is really, they really encourage training and advanced degrees. And so I applied for a competitive program there and was selected in 2010. And the school that I chose was the University of Maryland.
Okay.
And so I went there for 1 full year to get as much coursework in as I possibly could. And then I came back to the office to do my research, and I still had to work on projects. So it took about 5 years for me to finish. And so now I work in workforce development for our high performance computing program. So.
And as I always say, I am so proud of you.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
Because it is a field that you don't see a lot of Black women in.
Right.
And you are there and making a difference, at the table and everything. And so it's just been amazing to watch you throughout the years accomplish what you have. So, as I always say, I'm so proud of you. So you mentioned, going to University of Maryland, and so your bachelor's and your master's degrees are from Jackson State.
Correct.
And then you, after working for a few years, you then decided to pursue a PhD. And so you mentioned that your that the agency that you were working for, really pushes training, and you could see that, having an advanced degree would be of benefit. But can you elaborate a little bit more on what pushed you to pursue a PhD and how you actually chose University of Maryland?
Okay. So getting a PhD initially was not on my radar, right? I can remember graduating from Jackson State and just really wanting to work. Like I wanted to make money, that's being a college student, you really want to kind of get in there. And so once I came to my current agency, I realized like the projects that we worked on were very advanced projects. I noticed that a lot of people that I work with had advanced degrees that I could see that helped them with the projects that we were working on.
Right.
So, and I also saw that I wanted to be competitive when it came to like promotions and, career advancement. And so that's really what pushed me to do it. At the time I was, single. I had a lot of time on my hands. And so I decided to apply for the program. I'd only been working for the agency a few years, and my initial application process did not turn out the way I wanted it to.
Oh, wow.
Right. And so I was not selected that time. I learned a lot from that process. I became more involved in the things that were going on around the agency to kind of learn a little bit more about the impact that I could have or that I could bring to the table from having a PhD. And so once I was able to, kind of tell that story and understand the reason why my PhD would be beneficial to the organization, being able to articulate that, I think I did a good job. And so the second time around, I did get it.
Okay.
As far as picking a school, there were several factors. Being in a long distance relationship was one of them. But another factor was picking a school that had a great computer science program.
Right.
And so that at the time they were like in the top 10 for computer science programs. And a story that I tell sometimes that I took the GRE, the graduate, I think it's a records examination that you take in order to get in. And so my scores were okay. They were not the best scores for that standardized test. And so what I did, I called the graduate coordinator. Like, I didn't receive a rejection letter. I didn't even let it get to that point.
Okay.
I just said, okay, let me just call, because a lot of
Right.
students are looking for financial support when they go to these universities. I didn't need that. I already had financial support from my organization. And so I talked to the graduate coordinator. I told him what my goals were. I told him that I would be fully funded. I know that I would do well in your program.
Yes.
It was well received,
Mm-hmm.
and I started the program the fall of 2010.
Okay.
Yeah.
Wonderful. I love that you took it upon yourself, to say, this is what I want. I'm going after it.
Yes.
Let me take this extra step to make
Yes.
sure that the program understands what they would be missing out on
Exactly.
if they don't accept me. And I think that is wonderful, because I think majority of people would have said, okay, I just, maybe I won't do it, or maybe I need to go somewhere else, even though they know that that's not really what they want.
Right.
And so you advocating for yourself, returned huge dividends,
Yes.
on your career. And so I think more people need to do that, stepping outside of your comfort zone,
Yes.
going from Mississippi to the DMV, the DC, Maryland, Virginia area,
Right.
is not always easy, but it was so much fun
It
and
was a
so many
lot of
things to
fun.
do.
Yes. Yes.
And I don't know for you, but for me, I felt like I grew up,
Quickly. You
very
had to.
quickly.
You had
Yes,
to. Yeah.
because you become independent. You can call mom and dad on the phone, but they can't get to you,
They can't get to
in not even in 30 minutes or an hour. You know what I'm saying? So, you learn a lot, and you grow up really quickly by doing that.
Yes.
What are some of the things that you may have noticed as you were pursuing your PhD? I know we've talked before about not just sharing, the positive side, because of course we want to share that, but we also want to be real with people,
Right.
and to let them know that yes, there will be challenges, along the way. And honestly, many of the challenges we shouldn't have to face.
Yes.
Truth be told, there are some challenges that are going to be there regardless, but what can you say about, your time in pursuing your degrees and your career?
Yeah. So, getting my first 2 degrees from a historically Black college, everyone that I interacted with, mostly I could relate to, the students, some of the faculty members and things of that nature. And then going into the workplace and trying to pivot in that environment as well. Because as you know, a lot of times I'm the only one in the room, that looks like me. A lot of times the only female, and certainly the only Black person there. But going to predominantly, white institution was challenging, right? So there were a lot of people that supported me. There were some challenges just trying to relate to the students, or just trying to relate to the faculty members. But I do feel like, once I was there for a while, I got to know them, they got to know me, and I did well.
Right.
I did well. But like sometimes I would feel, isolated. I'm not the most talkative person. Like, I'm not going to be the most bubbly person in the room. So that is definitely not me. And so if people expect you to be a certain way and you're not,
Right.
that can kind of isolate you as well. But overall, like, interacting with the students, being in group assignments, those things helped me, because sometimes you're forced to be in groups. Like, if the professor says, hey, this is a group assignment, you have to talk to other students, right?
Yes.
And so that really forced me to learn about other cultures, other cultures that I probably wouldn't engage with, that I was able to just from those interactions.
Yes. Okay. And you were the third Black female
Yes, so I was
to.
the third Black female to finish.
Mm-hmm.
And at the time, it was like six of us. So three guys, three women.
Mm-hmm.
Totally blew my mind, right? I'm not sure what the stats are now, but I certainly hope they have increased significantly. But I'm
Mm-hmm.
not sure. I'm not sure. But yeah, it was a striking statistic.
Yes,
Mm-hmm.
yes. But that still speaks to your level of perseverance,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
because whereas we certainly know that representation is important,
Mm-hmm.
uh, you're blazing the trail,
Yeah.
and making sure that the people behind you have that representation because you have, accomplished what you have, even if you didn't have a blueprint or
Right.
someone to, easily go to and
Mm-hmm.
say, how did you do this or how did you do that?
Yeah.
So you need that time to relax, go see Usher like we did this past
Yes.
summer.
So much fun.
Yes.
Yes. Yes.
But you need that time to
Mm-hmm.
regroup,
Right.
and then you come back stronger,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
than what you were. So that is awesome.
Yes.
You mentioned workforce development.
Mm-hmm.
What advice would you give? And I'm going to ask this in a few ways. The
Okay.
first way, what advice would you give a younger person, say K through 12?
Okay.
Um, what would you tell them your favorite part about being a computer scientist is?
Okay. My favorite part is problem solving,
Okay.
right? So you can take any problem and break it down into several components,
Mm-hmm.
to come up with a solution. And then you can take one problem and solve it in so many different ways.
Yes.
You can be creative with your problem solving skills as well. And I'm just really fascinated like technology itself, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I often tell students, especially when I'm trying to inspire them to be a computer scientist or even STEM in general.
Yes.
I give an example of a baker. I always ask them like, "Who likes cake?" And they're like,
Mm-hmm.
"Oh, I love cake." And I was like, "What kind of cake do you like?" And they'll say all types of flavors. And my favorite is carrot cake.
Mm-hmm.
Some people like it, some people hate it. And so I asked them, when you are, let's just say you want to bake your favorite cake, what's the first thing you do? And they'll say, find the recipe.
Yes.
Right. You find the recipe,
Mm-hmm.
right? Okay. So your grandmother's carrot cake, the recipe for her carrot cake may be different from your carrot cake. But guess what? In the end, you have carrot cake.
Right.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
So in order to be a computer scientist, there's so many different ways. There's so many recipes that you can use in order to be successful. So if you come and you talk to another computer scientist, I'm very sure their journey is going to be much different from mine.
Mm-hmm.
But guess what? I'm sure they're going to be successful in what they do
Yes.
as a computer scientist. So the way I encourage students is I share my experiences. I kind of pull from other people's experiences.
Mm-hmm.
I let them know, like, hey, it's not all great, but it's good. It's provided me with a great life. It's provided my family with a great life. There are challenges, though.
Mm-hmm.
So initially, when I started to encourage students to come into computer science, I would kind of talk more about the great things, right? Which you want to explain that to them.
Right.
But at the same time, you want to be a realist.
Mm-hmm.
You want to let them know, like, there are going to be times where you're going to be the only person in the room that looks like you.
Mm-hmm.
It's not always going to be fun. Like initially, when I first got into this field, I thought it was an accomplishment to be the only one in the room.
Mm.
And as I matured, I'm like, this is sad.
Exactly.
I would have moments where I would really be down. I'm like, who can I connect with in this room?
Mm-hmm.
And so I would find myself not being myself sometimes. I'm not a big talker.
Mm-hmm.
I would find myself talking more and trying to relate and trying to do all these different things that were really not me.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, why do I have to change when I go into these environments?
Mm-hmm.
Why can't I just be my natural, quiet self,
Right.
talk when I need to talk, but I don't have to I don't have to be someone that I'm not,
Mm-hmm.
And so talking to students about the great things in computer science, I can do that, right?
Mm-hmm.
But I can also tell them it's not going to be easy, but you can do it.
Yes.
And we
need you.
We need you, desperately need you. And it's not just like the diversity of like ethnicity. It's the diversity of thought, right? It's the diversity of your experiences.
Yes.
You know, we need to hear all the voices at the table.
Exactly.
Right? And they need to be heard and considered.
You know? Okay.
Yeah.
So what is something that you wish you would have known? I know you mentioned internships when you were a student.
Yes.
Is there something else that you wish that you would have known as a student, as an undergraduate student, when you were pursuing your bachelor's degree in computer science?
Right. So when I was a freshman, I thought about internships, but I didn't think I had enough coursework. I'm like, what would I do in an internship? You know? But what I didn't know is that other universities have summer research programs for students, for any level of student. You know, you can go as a freshman going into your sophomore year. You can go to University of Maryland. You can go to Harvard. You can go anywhere, because a lot of the National Science Foundation has all these different programs where you can go to another university. You don't necessarily have to go to a company. I didn't know that. So I didn't apply.
Okay.
I just went and worked at a sports program at a local college.
Okay.
You know, it was just something to do.
Right.
And so as I learned about things, I tried to actually take action. You know, that's the biggest thing. And so by the time I had made it to my junior year, that's when I got smarter, and I was like, okay, I'm going to apply for several different things. Got to get one of them. So I did. Yeah.
And as I always say, you know, a lot of times we think of doing an internship where we want to work, or we think, yes, this is what I want to do, so I'm going to do this internship, and that's wonderful. But I also tell people to keep an open mind, because you may actually get on that internship and find out this is not what you want to do. You know,
and
so
that's
you
a good
have
thing,
to.
Though.
Exactly,
that's a good thing.
It is, and so you have to go in with that open mind. That no matter what, I'm going to get something out of this. It's either going to tell me that I'm going to go headstrong on this, or maybe I should be thinking about how I can, you know, use my degree. You may even find out you want to change majors, you know, once you get that hands-on experience. But that's the beauty of doing the internships when you are an undergrad. Additionally, when you've done internships with different companies or universities, it gives you that exposure again. It gives you that connection with mentors and other people, you know, in your field. And I also like to say to students, look around the room when you're in your classrooms, things like that, because you never know when someone sitting next to you right now may have an opportunity for you. You may have an opportunity for them, you know. So that's why those connections and supporting each other, like you said, teamwork. And I'll be honest with you, like you said, being someone who is naturally more quiet, I was not always open to teamwork. I was not. If you want to
I understand.
almost send me into a panic attack, force me to be on a team. That was when I was an undergrad. But like you said, you learn, you have these experiences, and now I certainly know the value, you know, of teamwork. So that's great. But I do actually want to touch on this before we even get into early career professionals. But a lot of times we share when we go to conferences or big meetings how the interaction can be exhausting. And the reason I want to touch on that is because I have witnessed people who will say that the person with the bubbly personality that can come in and immediately start talking and connecting with people, you know, it's almost like the attraction immediately goes to them. And for those of us who may be more quiet, it's like, you know, well, they don't want to interact. You know, that's kind of what the label that can be put on us. And I want to address that because, again, people have to understand that everyone is not the same.
Right.
You know, and whereas we can learn to be, you know, more extroverted, I guess, in those environments, people also have to understand it's exhausting for some of us. Not to say that we don't want to do it and don't want to be there, and we will certainly do what we need to do, but there has to be that downtime.
Yes,
you know?
absolutely. Absolutely. Yes.
And having that support system, you
Mm-hmm.
know, and being able to say, I know sometimes when I'm at a meeting, like, Leslie, I'm having to take my moment, you know.
Even let's just say you're with coworkers for 7 days.
Mm-hmm.
I'll go out to eat with you maybe 2 or 3,
Mm-hmm.
but I've been with you for 8 hours.
Mm-hmm.
I cannot go to dinner every night.
Yeah.
You know, and I used to feel bad about that. I used
Right.
to feel obligated to go.
Mm-hmm.
And finally, I'm like, no, I do not want to go.
Mm-hmm.
I have been engaged, fully engaged
Mm-hmm.
with you guys all day.
Right. Right.
I don't have to come with you to
Mhm.
dinner. And it's okay.
Yes.
It's okay.
Yes.
And one thing that I had to come to grips with is that I couldn't be worried about what someone else thought of me
Absolutely.
because I didn't show up.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I did my job. I did it well.
Mhm.
I was a nice person. I engaged. I contributed.
Yes.
But I am not obligated to do things with you after 5 o'clock.
Right. And those
You know?
boundaries
Mhm.
are, again,
It took
what
a
help-
while to learn,
Yes.
and I'm still learning. You know,
Right.
sometimes I still feel obligated to do certain things, and I have to make myself not do them because it doesn't serve me.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
And you have to be present not just for work, but when you go home.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
Yeah.
you have to be present there as well. So
Yep.
being self-aware and
Mhm.
again advocating
Yes.
is something that we have to be mindful of
I agree.
in order to show up as our best.
I agree.
So my next one was, so we did K through 12 students, now early career.
Okay.
What's something that you wish you would have known when you first started?
So one thing I learned working for the first company in DC,
Mm-hmm.
they were real big on pairing early career professionals with like junior and senior folks.
Okay.
Right. So there was a formal mentorship process.
Mm-hmm.
So when I made it to my second organization, that was one thing that I said, this works. Let me find a mentor.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's what I would encourage someone, an early career professional,
Mm-hmm.
is to actively find someone that you can connect with,
Okay.
even if it's someone that's not on your team, that's not in your chain of command. But on the flip side of that, I encourage seasoned professionals to reach down or reach to the side and help an early career person.
Mm-hmm.
Because like you said, the early career people may not know that it's okay to ask someone that's been around for 20 years to be their mentor.
Right.
And as a person in this profession, we also have a responsibility, right, to the ones that come after us. If we
Yes.
want to push science forward, of course, we're doing our part by doing our work and trying to, influence what we can. But we also have to give back. We have to be open to be mentors to other people. So yes, a mentee should seek out a mentor, but
Yes.
if you are in a position to mentor someone, you should at least show yourself friendly, show people that you are capable of being a mentor, and and reaching out to people, seeing if they need a little help or if they want to talk. I was just on Teams earlier this morning, and a young guy, he's been around for maybe 5 years or so, and I just reached out to him and say, hey, are you going to put in for that promotion?
Mm-hmm.
And he's like, I'm thinking about it, but I don't think I'm ready. I said, you're ready. Submit the paperwork.
Yes, absolutely.
We've never even talked about it, but I know, I'm like, just from the outside looking in,
Right.
you are ready.
Yes.
And let's just say you don't get it. You're going to get a lot of feedback that you didn't know about, that you can kind of
use.
work on and move. You can do it. And
Right.
so I try to find opportunities like that to just sometimes poke my nose in someone else's business, that I know that I can do, that I can do it. I try not to be overbearing, but there are opportunities where I can spread my sphere of influence and help someone else.
Yes, and that just reminds me of something that that I was told once. Stop counting yourself out. Let them tell you no. There are going to be plenty of people that may try to knock you down. You don't want to be one of them.
Yes.
So go after it.
Yeah.
And we oftentimes feel like we have to, have everything in line before we apply for something. But in those moments, we have already achieved a lot,
Yeah, that's true.
and
That's
and are
true.
probably overqualified,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So yeah, that's really good. My next question to you is, what do you see in the future for you?
What? Oh, great question, Dr. Jamise. Great question. What do I see for me? So honestly, Jamise, um, the future for myself, even in this moment, sometimes seems very cloudy.
Okay.
Right? This is for a full transparent moment, right? I am still like moving forward in the things that I'm doing in my career. I'm still planning to do the adjunct professor stuff for JSU this spring. I'm so engaged with a lot of things that's going on with my daughter.
Yes.
And so she's about to start piano lessons. Like she's doing so many different things, and I'm so engaged with what she's doing and her growth. So for myself, I really want to take like the next few months and kind of do some reevaluating, right?
Okay.
I know a lot of times people try to do that around the new year and all that stuff. I'm not quite there, right? I'm kind of in a state where I'm enjoying what I'm doing. I'm kind of settled in, but I know, and I think you sent me. Yeah, you did send me something on Instagram. Look, you did send me something that really like sparked something in me because I know I have a lot of great qualities, right? And I've gone through this period where there were some things that have been disappointing to me career-wise that made me sit back and like, is this really where I want to be, right? So I have taken some time to kind of sit back, reevaluate some things. I am pushing forward more toward doing the things that make me happy, where I can still have the biggest impact, right? And so I found a niche now in the whole workforce development area, which I completely enjoy, right? I really enjoy because I'm interacting with a lot of students, interacting with faculty members, spreading, the good news about what we're doing in my career field. And so to fully answer that question is that I really want to be in the best position to have the biggest impact.
Yes.
Even if that impact is just one person.
Okay.
Or one thing or one little area. Even if it's just this classroom that I'm going to interact with for the next 4 months, So I don't have I don't have like these big grand goals, but I do have small ones where I want to, like, even working with the sorority group. I know there's going to be a lot of opportunity to interact with young girls and engage in that sense. So more impact and being more intentional with that impact.
Awesome. Awesome. So the next question is current and even future technology.
Okay.
Because you do a lot of work with high performance computing, also using various tools like artificial intelligence, cloud computing, things like that. We were talking earlier about generative AI.
Yeah.
Things like Chat GPT.
Right.
So can you just give a little bit of, your perspective on how fast, these things are moving forward? Because like your dad was saying, when he put that job announcement on the table, things are changing and you need to be ready for it.
Yeah. So my husband and I, we talk about this often, and like artificial intelligence has been around for years, right? But I think like technology itself has finally caught up, right? And so now we're able to bring technology and bring the science together to now we can see all the great things of artificial intelligence, because like some of my friends, it's like, oh, this stuff is so new. I'm like, no. Not really new, but we're finally seeing it come to fruition and come to light in all the technology, the devices that we use, right? So I see it being such a positive thing, right? As far as like education and doing things more efficient, more cost efficient, getting things right? But then on the flip side of that, there are going to be some people that are going to have to alter their careers, right? So I have a few friends that do like data analysis. They're like business analysts, right? And so they're already seeing that they can put some stuff into these AI tools to say, hey, write me code for this, spit it out like that.
Wow.
these companies are going to get smart and say, okay, I may not need 10 business analysts. I may only need one alongside AI. So some people are going to have to pivot, pivot and do something a little different. But I do see in this being an asset to our society.
That's good.
Yeah,
that's good. Yes, a lot of people are afraid of it for many reasons. Job security, as you mentioned, and it is something that I think, because people can't touch it, but it's giving so much information, people are afraid that it's going to get ahead, of our capacities. But like you said, it's a matter of making sure that the workforce is trained, I think, because you do need that human in the loop.
Oh, absolutely.
In order for companies to get the most of it. But like I said, students now have to be mindful of it, but you still have to have that integrity. You need to know how to use it, but you have to still be a person of integrity, even using AI. And as you mentioned, the coding, my major was not computer science, but I did a lot of coding because of the numerical weather prediction models that I worked on, and that trial and error of learning how to code, because for the most part I was self-taught. And so now I'm thinking, you mean to tell me you can ask this program, this chat GPT for a code and it spits it out to you? You know how much time that would have saved me?
A lot. And you would have got the job done quicker.
But thank you so much for everything that you have shared. Is there anything that you would like to share that we didn't talk about?
Earlier I mentioned, the initial career that I wanted to go in was broadcast journalism. And I talked a lot about my dad kind of steering me towards STEM. But like my mother, and you talked about me doing the poem Phenomenal Woman. So my mom, she was real big into public speaking, making sure I spoke correctly, making sure I had the longest speech during the Easter speech program. So she was really instrumental in me being comfortable being who I am, the person that I am in my own skin. So kudos to my mom as well. Yes. But this has been great, Jamise. I really appreciate you inviting me on your podcast.
Thank you.
Like I said, I'm so excited for you and the things that God is doing in your life.
Thank you.
Right? I can see 2024 being the best year yet.
Oh, thank you.
With more to come.
So yes, again, thank you. It's certainly been a pleasure. So thank you all for listening, and we look forward to getting your feedback and any questions that you may have regarding computer science. If there's any way we can help, I am not a computer scientist, but as you can see, I know some great ones. So, hopefully you will continue to move forward with your careers and know that even when you face challenges, you have what it takes to keep moving forward and advocating for what it is that you want. So thank you for listening to this episode of the Anomaly Podcast.